What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Steve's Project Car Garage. My name is Steve. Today we're going to go ahead and pick up on the carburetor rebuild. In the first video you saw me go ahead and take it apart, and the video was just running very long, so I went ahead and I figured I'd break it up into two sections. So grab yourself a cup of jitter juice and enjoy. So before we go ahead and dive into the video, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of explain it. I wasn't really happy with the way that the whole carburetor rebuild was going. And honestly, had I done this again, I probably would have rebuilt the first carburetor and then filmed me rebuilding the second one. But because of my nature, I went ahead and I did it the opposite way. So you're going to see that there's a lot of mistakes that I made in the rebuilding actually of the carburetor itself, which I voiced over to try to go ahead and give better explanation to the fact that I was realizing I was making mistakes and that, yeah, so bear with me. So anyways, that's the story of why the video is just a little bit funky from my usual videos, but I did have some fun actually doing the voiceovers, and I know I did it for a little while in the early days. I may do it again. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know what you think. But anyways, watch me try not to destroy these carburetors in the process of rebuilding. All right, so while I wait for my parts to go through the part wash, they're just kind of soaking right now. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can clean up this dash pot. I got some green polish compound from Harbor Freight and a buffing wheel. This is a method that I saw from Alan over up at the Up Spitz Creek YouTube channel, cleaning up some parts that he had that are just cast aluminum like this. And so we're going to go ahead and give it a shot, see if it gets these cleaned up nicely, and you know, see what the end result is. Hopefully this cleans up well and we can clean up the rest of the carb that way too. So let me go ahead and get this started. So now I'm just taking a microfiber to it, and it's pretty sharp. I mean, there's a lot of imperfections in the casting. You can tell that these carbs have been through hell and back, but I mean, they got a nice shiny finish now. That's pretty slick. I like it. I think those will look good on there. What do you think? Comment below. Alright, so this is the part watch that I got. It's just a gunk carburetor complete cleaning kit. It's kind of cool because it comes with a little basket and everything for you to put your parts into. So we're going to go ahead and just pull out this carburetor, the body. And give that a minute to really kind of drain out. It sat in here for probably 20 minutes or so. Just gonna let it drip dry real quick. All right, time for a bit of a situation report. So I went ahead and I just disassembled the linkages entirely, taking a lot of pictures before doing so I can remember how it goes back together. Pretty much all of these parts have now been through the wire wheel, although I'm seeing this and I gotta put that through. But mostly, yes, all has been put through the wire wheel. I went ahead and tried to polish this up too, and with all the little nooks and crannies, it is so hard to try to get a really nice finish on this, but I mean, heck, it does look really good. And I did go ahead and give it a nice wipe down and cleaning on the inside. Still some spots I see I gotta maybe get some air pressure in there just to give it one last good clean out, but for the most part I think that's just about good to go, because I don't really know if I'm gonna be able to get that any more polished. So I'm going to start putting some of this stuff back together, and once I have the linkages and everything put back together, we're going to go ahead and then start on the floats over there. So let me get you set up and we'll start reassembling. All right, so I have been working for the last hour or so putting this linkage back together. The real problem is that it's spring-loaded, and it's just, there's a lot. It's not easy, but I did finally get the linkage back together there. And so now the next thing is to move on to the throttle portion. And so you have the original discs here, which have an idle down valve. Pretty much everybody that I saw online said that they go with the one that comes with the kit that doesn't have that. So that's what we're gonna do. Essentially, when you look at these, it's really hard to show, but there's a tapered edge. In the middle, it's flat, but on the tops and the bottoms, it's tapered to be able to help close and seal. So we need to make sure that as we put this together, this goes the right way. So what I'm going to start by doing, and I got this new throttle shaft put in. I'm going to go ahead and get this guy placed in. Should go in like so. And now in here you're going to see that there's the slot for the disc. So when looking at the disc, we want to make sure that when the disc grows up, it makes a nice seal. Same when it comes down. So it's going to be like this. Let me just take a look here. Okay, the chamfered edge is going like this, and then like this. So that should, right? That should be the correct way to close this guy off. We're going to slide this guy in.
So this is right about where I felt that I was pretty confident in everything, but it turns out that I had the linkage clocked 180 degrees the wrong direction. So everything was backwards.
I guess the linkage portion isn't so important at the moment. It's more just the alignment of the disc, so I'll come back to that in a moment. There we go. I think I might have this backwards too. I'm pretty sure I do.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right. And then they provided us with some new split screws. These screws have a split in them to be able to help prevent the screws from backing out and getting sucked in, which would be bad. And it says to get these started, but don't tighten them down because they're single-use screws until you're 100% certain on how everything goes together. And they're a little difficult to get started. Alright, so we got the screws on in. I'll hold it up to a light to see if I can see a lot of light through it at all. I really shouldn't be able to. Seems like we got a decent taper on that. Now before I go ahead and flatten out and split those screws, I'm going to really assemble the linkage more, make sure I don't have to pull anything apart, because if I have to pull that apart again, that means I need new screws, and yeah, don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look further at the rest of the parts looks like I've got this washer which will go on here, and then this linkage. Pretty sure that's how that goes on. Need to double check my reference pictures, but it should be something like this. And these guys. And then this guy who gets to be cleaned up. I think that goes on like that. Of course, I got no reference for adjustment, but we'll just call it that for the moment. I think we got this. All right, let me go get this cleaned up, get this put on. Again, I'm not gonna do any of these guys until any of the locking tabs and things of that nature until I'm certain on the assembly, but so far I think we're in the right direction here. All right, so after a fair bit of fiddling about, I discovered that I did have the throttle disc in backwards, so I had to turn it around, but now it makes a nice seal, and the linkage went together good, which is what it was not doing before. The linkage was not moving correctly. So we have I want to say this is going to be your idle adjustment screw right up top here, which just controls how much this stays open or closed, and then you'll have your throttle adjustment here. As this opens, that'll go ahead and push down on the jet to go ahead and open up the jet and allow the needle to get more fuel or something along those lines. Still trying to figure this out, but yeah, I think we got a good start here. I'm gonna go ahead and press pause and take a break and pick this up in a little bit. I'll catch you in a few. Okay, so we're back. I'm gonna start reassembling the main body. So I've got this part here that's going to sit right into here, and this is where the needle goes in and the jet. So we're just going to put that back in.
Let's go ahead and press pause right there. So I ended up putting in a centralizing washer that kind of goes around the jet housing itself, and it kind of helps to centralize the jet housing within the actual body of the carburetor. And I have had so many issues with trying to get this jet to centralize with the needle. And so honestly, because I really foobarred the assembly portion of this, I'm going to show you a couple of bits and clips of it, but to be honest, we're going to go ahead and maybe address that a little bit later. But so for the time being, we're going to skip ahead a little bit, and we'll get back to some of the better stuff.
All right, got that in. Want to make sure that it's in there and pretty flush. That's good. All right, next bit's going to be this spring. This little locking tab and this nut.
Alright, and so here I have returned with the jet, and I'm going to go ahead and just get that inserted in there, and then we're going to go ahead and try to attach the linkage, and then eventually we'll get to attaching this all to the float bowl. So yeah, watch as I try to fumble my way through figuring this out. So there's a little small screw that has a bit of like a bushing that kind of fits inside of the linkage here, and then it just is a Phillips head screw. Essentially just screws on into this portion here of the bottom of the jet. I've also seen some designs where it's just a pin that goes in there, which seems to be one of the more newer designs, but the one that I have just happens to use the screw. I'm sure I could upgrade it to the pin if I wanted to, but this is what I'm doing, and boy am I struggling to get it done. Let's fast forward.
Alright, so I got the jet put in. Put the screw in. Got some decent movement there. That looks good. That's going to be what connects to the float chamber. All right, so I had to redo this down here. It just was not really centering up the jet hole. Just was not happy with it, and so it was causing the needle to bind. But now I've got full movement of the jet. Here, better view. I got full movement of the jet, and the needle stays right in place. This can go up and down without any problem. So I am pretty happy with it. All right, so before I go ahead and dive into the float chamber, just for grins, I want to go ahead and put the spring on and see about lowering the dash pod in. Let's just see how this all goes together. Not bad. I think it looks pretty decent. So there's a little bit of resistance on the needle. Or the dash pot spring here, maybe this is just not pulling down enough yet. Yeah, they seem to be kind of stuck down.
Or maybe I just happen to have the spring on the wrong side of the plunger. So, you know, that could always happen too. Whoops.
All right, so now that I got the preliminary assembly done of the first carb, I'm going to go ahead and now turn my attention to the float bowl. So the float bowl does not come with this gasket, which I was kind of surprised to see. In fact, none of this comes with it. So we got to be careful with that. I mean, this is older stuff. I mean, it's not super brittle. It looks like it's okay shape besides being dirty. All right, let's go ahead and dive into taking this guy apart. It's just going to be 3 flathead screws on the top. And this pretty much should just reveal the actual float. And of course, the identification tab. We don't want to lose that. Okay. There it is. I was expecting there to be all kinds of gunk in here, but it's actually pretty clean. So there's not a lot in there. We will throw that into the part wash though, just to let it soak. So in fact, let me go ahead and get that done now.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
All right, so that's the float itself. It looks like they give us a new pin for the float, and then also the adjustment there. All right, so this says to hold the pin by the serrated end and withdraw it. There we go, it's the old pin. And the float comes out. Extract the float needle from its seating and unscrew the seating from the lid. So there's the float needle. And we need to remove the float seating from the lid.
Many minutes later.
Got this soaked, went ahead and I gave it a nice little polish. Pretty happy with the result. Went ahead and I got the float needle out also. So that was pretty straightforward. There's a 7/16 socket. Pops, comes right out. So let's go ahead and get the new one in. My fingers are filthy. You like that? Polishing compound really does a number on them. Go ahead and put the new guy on in. Then I get my socket on this and we'll just get it on nice and straight. Alright, got the new one in. Let's see here. Float needle should just drop on in like so. Now we got the float bowl and we have the new pin. Should be able to just easily slide that on in. There we go. Well, it should be all we need. Nice new gasket on there. And again, just close that up, remembering that we had our SU carburetor section pointing this way. Let me see if I can straighten this guy out a little bit. It's a little messed up. In just a second. All right. It's a little better. Okay, so there we go. Now, comes to this old guy. I don't want to use any solvents or anything on this, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Now the fun part is that I put this linkage on, and I'm going to regret it, I think, here in a minute, because I suspect that in order for me to get this bolt in, this linkage really needs to be out of the way. Yeah. Sure does. Okay. All right, float bowl is on. Now, this is where I'm a little confused, because so Rob Turner has these little olives, and I understand that these are supposed to go on in place of this little rubber one. But that's just a tube right there.
All right, so this is an area where I made a mistake, and I'm really kind of upset with myself about it. And I never really went back and filmed my correcting of it. So essentially, you need to remove the little washer and also that small rubber grommet, and then put the olive on. So the little washer and the rubber O-ring actually are not supposed to be there, and so I end up tightening this thing down, and I found out a little bit later that was the wrong move to make. So if you are going to go ahead and use those olives from Rob, make sure that when you do it, you actually remove the washer and the rubber O-ring, because you don't need those. So anyways, let's carry on.
Alright, so sorry for the added noise, but I got the fans going. It's not the next day, and well, the garage is pretty hot, so I got fans and AC. Anyways, I spent some more time fiddling around with this last night, and I got this all hashed out. It turns out that I had this guy installed upside down. So I actually had the spring up inside of here, and I'm sure that there are probably some of you watching that said, "No, you're doing it wrong." Well, I heard you. So anyways, that's what was up. So this guy is now pretty much done. I still have not done the cutting of the screws yet, or the splitting of the screws in here. I got to do that still, but I am going to go through this guy first and get this cleaned up and done. I'll do that off camera, and yeah, pretty much that's going to be about it. So let me get cracking on this and check in with you shortly. And just like that, through the magic of YouTube, I have 2 nicely rebuilt carburetors. So that's kind of the overall process. Like I had to, said in the video, there was a lot of things I had to kind of go back and redo. Is what it is. But overall, I'm excited to get these guys put together and strapped onto the engine and, get it running. Hopefully they will run a lot better than the the Zenith Stromberg that I had on there before. In terms of the intake manifold, that's sitting over there on the bench. I haven't had a chance to really go ahead and clean it up or anything yet. I'm heading over to Chris's house tomorrow to go help him install the windshield on his bus. And I was thinking maybe I can drop it in this ultrasonic cleaner while I'm there. So might do that just to kind of get it cleaned up a little bit. Gonna go ahead and take apart the PCV valve, kind of get a better idea of what's going on with that. I don't think it's really gonna do that much work, but we'll see. And yeah, so if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the bell, click the subscribe button for me and get those post notifications, and well, you know what to do. And when we're working on project cars like this, if you're gonna film it, do the first carburetor first, and then film the second carburetor rebuild. And also, don't be that dreaded previous owner. Cheers.